welcome to another episode of Get a Good Start. Hey folks, I started getagoodstart.com to help other people, and one of the ways I can do that is to introduce you to resources that can help you be successful. The Growth Suite is one of those partners, and their mission is to provide you with the skill set, mindset, and tool set to increase your impact and income. Check out their free resources for Get a Good Start listeners over at thegrowthsuite.com/getagoodstart. Don't forget to visit getagoodstart.com for links to our guests and a list of action items that can help you get a good start. I am excited to have such an accomplished guest today. Graduating from California State University with a BA in theater, she started her theatrical career on stage as a cast member at Disneyland. Then was the lead actress playing Cherelle in the first national tour of Beautiful, the Carole King musical. In 2016, she was crowned Miss California, and in 2017, she took a full-time acting position with the Broadway production of the Carole King musical, playing Lucille. Since the pandemic, she has been teaching masterclasses in musical theater, has written a book, and is currently producing her own podcast on the Broadway Podcast Network entitled Black Hair in the Big Leagues. Welcome to the show, Salisha Thomas. Hello.
Woo! God, that was a great intro. Thank you so much. I was listening to you like, oh, because sometimes in this pandemic, it feels like I haven't done anything with my life.
Oh, you've been doing plenty. Keeping ourselves active during the pandemic was very important to keep our sanity, right? And getting a good start every day is always important. And when you think about that, what is a good start? How do you get a good start every day?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And that can be like for life, but like on my day-to-day, I realize the days that I get up, work out, like get a sweat going, wash my face, like literally simple things, wash my face, brush my teeth, put on real clothes. It sets up the rest of my day like, oh, you're not a couch potato for life. Those simple things, wash face, brush teeth, put a little bit of makeup on, even if it's just for me, it feels like I'm not doing nothing. And then my actions follow that.
The routine of getting the bed made,
Ooh.
getting the kitchen clean, because then it's not all this leftover stuff from the night before, right? Everything's clean, and now my brain is clean. Now I can get going with the rest of your day, right? Some days I think, wow, how did we get here? You know, if I could go back in time, what would I tell myself to maybe be in a different place or be in a better place? It may not have changed, but maybe I'll be more informed. If I could put you in a time machine and send you back, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself to give yourself a little bit better of a start?
There's a few different things. I would say, okay, don't judge me for this. I've always been like boy crazy ever since I was little, like, oh, what does he think about me? Oh, does he like me? Relationships take up a lot of energy. And before you have found your person, it seems like it's almost like you don't realize the harmony that it can be. And it's easy to chase after something that is never going to work. But you don't realize that until you actually meet somebody who just gets it, who just gets you. And if I could go back in time, I'd be like, don't waste the time. Don't waste the energy. Just stay focused on your goals, your career. You can do both, but if you were to funnel all of that wasted energy on guys who never, like, it was never gonna, just that's the waste of time, people, like funneling all of that energy into something that you want to do with your life and be productive, oh, you'll get there 10 times faster. The person comes into your life, oh, it'll be like, got it.
So you would go back and tell yourself, listen, let's not waste our time worrying about what other people think, right?
Yeah.
Worrying about impressing people and trying to build a relationship that, let's face it, in your 20s is usually transitory to the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And it just sucks up a lot of time.
Yeah.
And those important ones, the ones that hit lightning in a bottle, right? That happens once. If it happens, it's going to happen regardless of your circumstance, right? And it's going to be a positive thing no matter what. It's not going to be work. You think? You agree with that?
I do agree with that. And I'm thinking about getting the first national tour of Beautiful, the Carole King musical. And you saw my eyes veering right now because I was thinking about it. And I was thinking, I was in California working as a vocalist at Disney. And I came out to New York because I wanted to give it a try, but I wasn't ready to move. And I'm like, when I got to New York, I fell in love, Scott. I'm like, this is my favorite place in the whole world. but I couldn't justify logically leaving a whole life that I had set up in California until a homeless man was sitting next to me. We were waiting for the A train to go to Brooklyn, and he came up next to me and he looked at me and he said, I don't know who you are, but you need to move here and you need to do it now. And when he said that, my whole body was consumed in goosebumps. My stomach was turning and there was a twinkle in his eye. And I knew, I'm like, this is crazy, but I know what I'm supposed to do. And I put my notice in that day to Disneyland, and within 2 weeks was back in the city officially. And the week I'd sold everything. The week I moved back to New York is when I got Beautiful, the Carole King musical, which that show was in my life for 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And so it feels like I hit lightning in a bottle, but at the same time, if I didn't follow that gut impulse, I don't know if I would have hit that.
Really, what we're talking about here is you go back and tell yourself, put blinders on to the stuff that isn't that important. Let's focus on the thing and take a chance. I mean, you just said you moved out here to New York, and here you are. It can't be an easy path being an actress who wants to go on into theater, particularly in Broadway. The things you've done, been some, I'm sure, a lot of trials, a lot of no's, not today, you're not right for this part.
So much rejection.
A lot of that real world just pounding on your head. If we could go and talk to, or if I could put you on a Zoom call with all the graduating seniors and you could tell them one thing about the real world that they need to know that you don't learn in school, what do you think that one or two things could be?
Rejection is a blessing in disguise in almost every way, shape, and form. Because the things that are for you, oh, they're for you. All you got to do is show up and be breathing. The things that have your name on it, nobody can keep them from you except yourself if you decide to not show up or to not complete that project or whatever it is. So what is for you, it's already done. It's already yours. All the things that you don't get, there is a reason. There's a reason that doesn't, for me, it doesn't usually make sense in the present moment. It's like, it just sucks in the moment. But sometimes it can be protecting you from something that you had no idea about. Also, not being afraid of rejection gives you so many more opportunities to fly. Like if you are so afraid that like, oh gosh, they're not gonna like me, you're already taking yourself out of the game. One time when I was on tour, I wanted to sing the national anthem for a professional sports team. So I sung it in my phone and I sent it off to a handful of teams who all said no, except for one. My favorite team, the San Francisco Giants. They got back to me and said, hey, Salisha, got your tape. You sound great. Can you sing for us? I was like, yes. They're like, great. How's opening weekend versus the Dodgers? I was like, yes, I hate the Dodgers and I love the Giants. And it was awesome. And people saw that I was singing at this game. They didn't know that I got rejected from the 49ers. They didn't know I got rejected from the Cowboys, from the Angels. All they saw was the success. So if you are okay with being rejected, you are setting yourself up for when you do get a yes, it's going to be awesome.
The best phrase I heard the other day was, failure is success in progress.
Amen.
Right?
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah. And I agree with you. It's all, there's so many things in life where you think everyone notices all the failures, all the things you've been. No one knows. All they see is the present, what's going on right now, the success. No one knew when you were singing. They're like, she must sing the national anthem all the time. They had no idea that was your first time at a sports stadium. Yeah. They had no idea you asked everybody and you sent them a clip on your phone of you singing, right?
Right.
That's a chance. I tell students all the time, they have to take a chance. And that chance is the thing that's going to give them a little bit of confidence.
Yeah.
The confidence to fail is a confidence to succeed. So
and also with that, Scott, how you feel, how you project what you are feeling when you get rejected and when you find success, that also reads. So if you didn't get the job and people see you taking that gracefully, it actually can be a really positive thing. If you're a sore loser and you're like, and you didn't get the thing and you're like mad at everybody and you just like go off at the world, it's like, okay. But if you take it gracefully, that's also subconsciously noted into the fabric of life, I think.
Definitely. So let's think about this for a second. You're on stage, lights come on. You know, I don't know how many people are in a theater that with the biggest theater, but think of the biggest theater you were in that you're performing, right? You know, all these strangers and the light go on, you know, it's your cue. You got to go. How do you keep composed? How do you become a professional performer? And I think this is applicable because, you know, students sooner or later got to give a presentation. They got to get up on stage or in front of a class, whether it's in front of 500 students at a lecture hall or 20 in a little classroom, right? Which I think is worse because a big crowd, you could kind of blind them out and pretend there's not that many people there. But in a small little room, I mean, they're all eyes on you, or you see the person sleeping in the back of class, right? So what kind of tips from your performing career, from your you have a master class and that you give, what kind of tips can we give these students? Hey, when you go up there, do this. It'll make it easier.
There's a couple different things. So if I'm on stage with other actors, something that gets me out of my own head is to listen to who's on stage with me. It's one thing to be like, all right, it's my line. What do I say? I'm going to say it. But when, like, even in our interviews, Scott, like when you're interviewing me, when I'm interviewing people for my podcast, it can get stale really quickly if you're so worried about what's the next thing I'm going to ask. Right. But when you're listening to the person, you've got a million follow-up questions if you want to. Like, listening to the other actors on stage is like, oh, well, this is what I would naturally say, and this happens to be my line. Now, when there's nobody on stage with you, and it's just you, like you're saying, giving a presentation, okay, there's a couple things. Just knowing, why are you there? If your objective is something bigger than you, it's easier to be like, they need to know this. I'm here, I'm being paid to speak or not for a reason. Like, I'm not just talking just to blow air. But also, somebody said this to me the other day. Other jobs, we don't care. We don't care what your internal monologue is. If I go to a restaurant, I just want my food. I want it hot. I want it to be what I ordered. I want it with the substitutions, and I want it now. Like, I don't care. I mean, always be kind, but I don't really care if your boyfriend if y'all had a fight or what your boss said today. Just give me my food, please. And so when we're on stage, people don't really care what kind of day you had. It can feel personal when you're speaking, especially when you're speaking from your heart, but they really just like, can you hit the note? Are you reaching them? Are you passionate? Are you enthusiastic? Or do you have something to say? Also, how do you look? Did you get dressed for it? Like, you know, just get dressed, have something to say, hit your marks, hit the note, and then go home. Like, there is a portion of it that is a job. Every other industry, they have to go to work and do their job. It just happens that for actors, we expect applause at the end of the day.
Well, yes. You know, I think that's important for students to know. Like, you get on stage, you're going to do a job. You're going to present information. So that's an easy one, right? Your first tip is know what you're doing, right? What's your purpose? To tell a story about something, or, the project got assigned to me and here's my answer, right? But really get prepared, be prepared, dress the part, look the part, deliver the lines, and get the hell out, right? That's it.
Get the heck out. Like, begin with the end in mind. So if it's a presentation for a project, whatever, like, you want that A+, go up there, be confident. And sometimes confidence will sell it more than actual content. Sometimes.
Fake it till you make it, right?
Fake it till you make it. If you go up there and you're like, this is my report on becoming supernatural, and you only read 20 pages, and if you sell it, no one cares.
Because no one else probably read the book either, so you could probably get by with it, right?
No one else read the book.
You know, just speaking with you, I mean, just interacting with you at the PodMax event, and now just speaking with you for a few minutes now. I mean, I feel like I got to get up and run and do something, right? This energy level is infectious, and you know, I know college students are always, even if I have a seminar like at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, they're like, "Oh, I'm so tired." How do we? What do you do to keep that energy level up every day? I mean, there's certainly a motivation behind the scenes that keep you pushing forward every day. What is it?
Um, Thank you for that, by the way. Okay, low key, like super basic thing. I need 8 hours of sleep. Like, I can be kind when I get less than 8 hours, but I have to actively be like, Salisha, be kind. But if I, but if I get 8 hours, I'm like, great, awesome. If I get more than 8 hours, you can be a dick to me when I'm driving on the train. I'll be like, oh, after you, go ahead. Just, it's so much easier for me to let it go when I get my sleep, when I drink water, like basic human needs, but also planning ahead. So when my next day has purpose, it's easier for me to be like, okay, I got a 12:30 with Scott. All right, I got to get up. I got to get dressed. I got to work out before then. I haven't had breakfast, but I have to, like, there's stuff I got to do when my day has purpose. Whereas if I don't have anything on the calendar, I can sleep in until the next
Whenever.
day. Yeah. So I like to plan ahead. And that's just having a list of, okay, what do I need to do tomorrow? Or even I'll do that in the morning sometimes. Like, and then from my list of things that I need to do, I will star what I like to call, I got this from my friend, a hero activity. So if
Mhm.
I don't do anything else in the whole doggone day, if I accomplish this one thing, this day was not for nothing. Like, this is the one thing that I have to get done, and everything else is just bonus.
Right.
So just having like a sense of purpose. There is another side to this coin, and this is more for a performing aspect. But when I worked at Disneyland, I did 5 shows a day. That's on the
Wow.
Disneyland side. When I was on the California Adventure side, the show that I did 8 shows a day. It was a lot. And when I first got there, when I was mounting a new show, and the creative team would come in and tell us, like, hey guys, you look tired. That's not okay. It might be the 4th show for you or the 5th show for you, but there are a lot of people in this park that spent a lot of money to be here to watch you, who might have been saving up all year or maybe more than a year so that they could come to Disneyland for this one day. So you might be tired, but you have to bring the magic for every single show. There is no room to show up and to be exhausted. That's not okay. And so I take that, and when I got to Broadway, 8 times a week sounds like a lot, but it's one show a day.
Right.
Show up. Like, just show up. Show up. There are people who, like, you could be inspiring, who
Right.
you are inspiring. So
I tell you, that's a great perspective thinking of it that way. That could be for your fourth show, right? But somebody else, like you said, they could have saved for 2, 3 years to go there for that one day, and they watching you on stage, and the last thing they want to see is what?
right,
Sleepy on stage, kind of going through the motions.
right.
Thinking about that, how do you combat that? I mean, I could imagine. I thought about it, and working actually. My office used to be 1515 Broadway, right upstairs from the theater down there,
Nice.
and I used to think about how many times a week these people are performing the same show over and over and over. How do you keep from it getting boring? How do you keep from just so-called dialing it in, right? And just, you know, showing up, going through the
Right.
motions. How do you put that little pizzazz in it every day? How do you do that?
I mean, everybody has their own tactics, and there are people who just don't do it. But I was really fortunate at Beautiful, backstage at Beautiful, the Carole King musical. Like, my cast members were so supportive and uplifting. And there would be days where I'm like, yes, I am so tired. I don't know if I can do this. And she'd be like, there's a lot of people who want to be exactly where you are. Girls, they just auditioned yesterday for your part, for our parts. You have the job. Show up.
Right.
Like, it's like there are girls waiting in the wings, ready to replace. Like, you've got it. You've got the job. Sometimes, like, you've got to just be actively grateful for the things in your life, because when it's your life and it's routine, it seems like, oh, this is just how it is. There was a day where I prayed so hard for what I've got today. And remembering that, like, I didn't always have this. I didn't always have this apartment. When I was on Broadway, I wasn't always on Broadway. And you better believe when I'm back on Broadway after this pandemic, I'm going to be like, dear God, please never take it away again. Like, to be grateful for the things that we have and not take anything for granted, because it can all change on
I'm
a
glad,
dime.
I'm glad you say that. I say that all the time, that gratitude is one of the most important things. My phrase is always, it could always be worse. And people will say, well, how? And it's easy to think up a way, right? It's always a
Yeah.
thing. It could always be 10 times worse. I think students coming out of college typically are like, how am I going to get a job? How am I going to do this? Everybody's against me. If I'm a theater student and I come out of college and I'm looking for a job, what kind of things can you give me as advice to, I want to crack into the theater business? Where do I start?
I think no matter what industry it is, okay, there's a secret on this planet that people know about, that some people do know it exists and they utilize it. Some people do know it exists and they don't utilize it because it's so abstract, it doesn't feel real. But what I have found that is on this planet as humans, whatever it is that you want, well, somebody else is doing it. It's possible. Even if no one else is doing it, the fact that you've even thought it means it's possible. That idea did not come from nowhere. There is something in the unseen world being like, hey, I'm an idea and I'm coming to you because I feel like you can do something with me. Whatever it is you want to do, it is possible. You have to focus on what you want, be clear about what you want, write it down, say it out loud, tell a friend, and back it up with action. Whatever it is, all you got to do is decide. You don't have to have the answers. You just have to be clear on your intention, and then start being curious. And one thing will lead to another person, to lead to this little piece of advice, which will lead you to this interview, whatever it is. I don't have any like, okay, this is how you get to Broadway. You can get to Broadway 20 million different ways. For me, it was moving to New York as a homeless man told me, and then I went to go see Motown, and my friend happened to be in Motown. He was like, you're here, come backstage. And he was telling me about all the things he was doing. And he was like, I'm auditioning for this and I'm auditioning for that. Hey, you could be in that. You should ask your agents about that. And over here, these are our wigs and all bigger. And it was just a fleeting thing that he just said in passing. And I asked my agents, I was like, hey, can you get me in for that? And they were like, probably not. And then the next day they were like, here's all the audition info. Your appointment is in 2 days. Don't mess it up. And I went in there and I did my best. And then after the weekend, I'd been cast in this huge musical. And that's how it worked for me. Other people, it's like they've been auditioning for a show for years. And you either, sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. And it can be like that in, I don't know, an office job, in Wall Street, whatever it is, you just have to be curious. And if you keep being curious, and if you keep focusing your energy on that goal and your intention, one day you're going to wake up and you're going to be in the room.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You said a few very important things. I almost thinking that you're stalking me in my seminars, because a lot of the things you said are things I teach, and you only get it from experience. And that's the purpose of the show in my seminars, is pass on the experience and the stuff we found out through trial and error. But you said, have a plan, right? Tell a friend. That's your accountability, right? Because they're going to come back to you in a couple of days and go, How'd that audition go? Well, I didn't go to it. Why not?
Why not?
Well, I didn't practice. Why didn't you practice? Go practice. No one wakes up a billionaire. They have to work at it a little every day, right? Nothing significant happens like that. Very rare. Yeah, people hit the lottery, but that's hitting the lottery. But you have to work at it every day. You have to be accountable to yourself. You
Yeah.
have to get mentors who are invested in your success.
Yeah. And you said something, and I want to piggyback on what you said in like support of what you said. You said no one just like hits it and there they are, like they just came out of nowhere. Sometimes it seems like some people come out of nowhere, like never heard of her and now she's famous, or I never, like it'll just feel like they just got it on a whim.
Right.
If you look at a person's background and you really dive in, no one ever just comes out of nowhere. There is a whole roadmap of what they did to lead them where they are. In the pageant system, sometimes it seems like, I never heard of this girl. Where'd she come from? And then she wins. Well, you might not have known her, but she actually did 15 other pageants. She actually was the teen winner for her state years ago. She actually has had a whole career in modeling. Like, but you don't know this when you didn't know who they were before.
Right.
But everybody who is successful, like you're saying, they were working their butts off, maybe even in silence. That grind is always there.
We're going to close it out now, but I'd love for you to give me a little plug about your podcast.
Okay, so my podcast is called Black Hair in the Big Leagues. As you can see, I've got my hair out right now. I did not used to do that when I was growing up, or even like a couple of years ago. I've always been ashamed of my own hair, always straightening it, hiding it with wigs. And so during this pandemic, I'm like, I'm sick of it. Not only do I want to feel a connection to Broadway, but I also want to figure out what to do with this mane on my head. And so Black Hair in the Big Leagues was my excuse to call up my friends and be like, hey, let's talk about hair for an hour or 30 minutes or 45 minutes. It helps me feel connected to the industry. So we're also talking about a lot of Broadway things, backstage things, secrets sometimes, but also it's like hair health and like what to do with your textured hair. And well, because of the climate, it's also, we talk a lot about social justice without even trying to. Talking about hair for a Black person is a gateway to how we are showing up as Black people and brown people in this world without even trying to. It's not shoving anything down anyone's throat. It's just hearing stories and our experiences. And it's, for me, a great way to feel connected and like you're a fly on the wall. If you are Black or not Black, or in the Broadway community or not in the Broadway community, and you've got questions, Black Hair in the Big Leagues is like listening in on conversations, getting answers without having to ask the uncomfortable questions, period. And so, yeah, that got picked up with the Broadway Podcast Network. And since then, it's still going. And I'm so excited about some of my guests. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys are amazing. I am actually starting a new show called The Salisha Show, and I'm so excited about it.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm excited because for Black Hair in the Big Leagues, it's so specific. It's like, okay, are you Black? Or something around like, a person of color. Do you have textured hair? Great. But there are so many other people who I want to talk to who've got great stories. And now the Salisha Show allows great conversations with great people. It can be anybody. I cannot wait, Scott.
When is that starting up?
Well, I'm starting interviews this month. And so my first guest is Karen Olivo, who just announced that she's leaving Moulin Rouge because she's like, Broadway is like not, they're racist. Basically, like, I'm like, I have so many questions. Like, let's get down to the bottom of it. And how did you have the confidence? She said, humanity is more important than my pocketbook. I'm not going back to Broadway in this lead role. Like, that's a huge deal. And so I'm just starting interviews this month, and I'm excited about it.
That's excellent. Just listening to segments of your current podcast, it's reminiscent of Sunday dinner. Everybody's sitting around and talking, and your purpose, your guidelines are, let's talk about Black hair. but
But
that your purpose is to eat dinner. But
yeah,
everybody talks about everything, right?
everything, right?
And that's what it reminded me of because it's so organic, the conversation. It just kept going and going, and I said, this reminds me of Sunday dinner.
Oh, I love that. I
So
love that.
that's
Thank you
the
for
feeling.
saying
That's
that.
the feeling I got off it, and certainly this really seems like Sunday dinner. It really does. And it first of all, you bring your energy, and then you bring your ideas and your curiosity to your guests in the next podcast. I know it's going to be very successful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so excited, and that's so encouraging what you just said.
Folks who are listening, Salisha Thomas is a very successful woman. You're going to hear great things about her very soon. I'm sure once Broadway opens up, there's going to be plenty of spaces for her to act and entertain us in a way that's high energy and positive every day. And if not, you could catch her on the Black Hair in the Big Leagues podcast and her new Salisha Thomas show, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Scott. You're awesome.